Tell me, how long do you think I'll keep strong? What is a dream? Do we recognize when we are reaching our dreams because they're changing? We change. Lea's a great singer, but when she raps, I love that. And then I knew, okay, this is the piece that's going to allow me to bring hip hop and Judaism together. And so for me, it made sense to put an element that is very male onto my hat. And I actually thought it looks better on women. That's the danger of social media. We just share products and it makes us very untouchable, harder to relate to in a way.
The Artist Square brings the most ballsy artists and creatives that not only question the world they live in, but dare to cross borders and make a difference through art. If you're looking for inspiration, knowledge, or simply connect with your favorite artist, we want this to be the space for you. I'm Alejandra Camacho, and want to welcome you to one more episode of The Artist Square. Welcome to this new episode of The Artist Square. I am very excited because the guest that we're going to have today is amazing. I admire her so much, and talking to her has enlightened me like no other. So I want to introduce to you guys this Swiss-Jewish international touring actress and singer, Lea Kalisch. She performs a variety of concerts in the Twin Cities, on the East Coast, and across Europe. Her work is deeply rooted in her Jewish heritage, but Lea gives tradition a facelift. From rap to rumba, folk to feminism, Lea blends styles and languages like a smoothie. In 2022, she released her debut album, In Love with a Dream, and she is recording 2 new albums with 2 bands in 2024. She's been seen off-Broadway and on regional theater stages. Lea is honored to be a Minnesota Jeremy Hill Artist Fellow and is working on her new first short film. Okay, first of all, thank you so much. No, seriously, for accepting being here. I always thought that you're very ballsy and you're not scared at all, to talk about your art, and I've always admired you. So I listened to your album and I thought it had a little bit of everything, it had hip hop and the Jewish heritage and also Latin because you love Latin.
I mean, everything's mixed. Whatever it is, it's who I am.
So I wanted to ask you first, how do you describe yourself?
As a person or as an artist?
Both.
Okay.
Because a person also makes the artist.
Yeah, that's totally true. I guess the way people have described me, and I think it really fits, I'm a firecracker.
Okay, yeah.
Firecracker is like just a ball of energy. And I think that really describes me as a person in my art. I have a lot of energy, and I think that's what people latch onto, or what people need, I think.
Mm-hmm.
When people come to my shows, the thing they always say is, oh, your energy. And then I get them up to dance, So I think I'm an energy boost. That's how I describe myself. And outside of that,
I confirm that.
yes, very reflective person, very analytical, and it doesn't it's more what happens behind my art. My art itself is like boom, ta-da, strong statements, very colorful, very ballsy the way you describe it. But behind that, I'm very analytical, critical, reflective, which is often something that isn't seen necessarily,
Do you feel like there's certain parts of being analytical that is in your art? Like in what way would you think?
No, some of my songs, have strong messages. I'm just working on a new song that will be released in the next 2 months called F the Algorithm.
Okay.
And it's against the ills of social media, how social media has such a bad impact on our mental health, and especially on children and teenagers, on their development, always comparing yourself, spending so many hours on the phone. So that song, it came from an emotion of anger towards the freaking algorithm. It's rooted in an emotion that I've needed to express, but all the work that goes behind it is very reflective. I'm trying to make a change, So yeah, there is some analysis. I'm observing children. I have a younger sister. I actually interviewed the kids that I auditioned for my music video for the song on their relationship with social media. So I question everything. That's what I need to say. I question everything. Sometimes, even in every moment I always ask why, which can be annoying to some people, but I think that's at the root of my art. Like, why is it like that? Why can we change it? Why? So I think that I'm a questioner.
Yeah, it's in the lyrics. If I listen to your lyrics, everything, I felt very connected with so many songs. So I'm just like, yeah, that's
Mhm.
true. Like you really think about it. So I can see the way you analyze what you live and it reflects
Mhm.
on your songs. When was the moment when you were a kid maybe or later on that you felt compelled to be an artist?
I was one of those kids, like many, who said, I'm going to be famous. I
Uh-huh.
just said, I'm going to be a famous actress and I'll buy my mom a house. That's what I said. And
Uh-huh.
said, you don't ever have to work again. Um, Once a day I'm famous and you can sit and zip coffee with your friends. I said that when I was little, but I wasn't acting then. I was figure skating, and I was a super nerd in school. But I guess I had some instinct. I would say it's an instinct that I need to be on the stage. And I was
Mm-hmm.
always performing in my home. Um, so it was always something I knew will happen, but it didn't happen, or I didn't pursue the path of, musical theater or music till I was like 18 and graduated high school and finished with figure skating. And then I gave myself space to pursue the arts.
Mm-hmm.
I did sing since I was 12, and I danced on the side, but it was always a hobby. And when I was 18 and had, graduated high school and then finished with figure skating, I was like, now I can follow this instinct.
Yeah.
But it's a constant, it's a journey. It One thing leads to the next.
You also sing, and the fact that you said you were a skater, right? And
Mhm.
then after that, how did singing come along?
I actually took private voice lessons starting at the age of 12. I was
Okay.
a bad singer.
Really?
I was a bad singer. My voice would crack. I used to speak with a lot of tension.
Hmm.
And that partially is in my family. We speak so loud. Everybody, it's such a Jewish, I mean, it's a very Jewish home. Everybody speaks on top of each other. Actually, that's not even true. It's a Jewish thing because my husband's family, nobody speaks on top of each other and they're Jewish.
Okay.
But it's a very Italian, my grandma's Italian, Jewish, hectic, loud. And then Swiss language is very in the throat. So I actually had a lot of throat issues. So I was a bad singer. I loved singing, but I went through a lot of terror is a big word, but a lot of I don't know, disappointments and troubles growing my voice and being a good singer. I once lost my voice in school. Like I tried to say something and it was gone. Anyway, so singing was always a part that I did on the side next to figure skating, but it was always a hobby because figure skating was 6 times a week. And so singing was just, once a week. And then once a year, I did a little show. But in Europe, also, I don't think there's this culture of auditioning or going to like being in musicals like in American kids grew up with this. So I didn't have that. It was just a hobby that I loved, and I was on a TV show when I was 16, but it was more like fun, you
Yeah.
know.
Hmm.
Deep down, I knew this is what I'm going to do, but it wasn't the time yet.
When did you decide to move to New York?
I actually, when I finished high school, I spent a year and a half auditioning for European, like German theater schools, like musical theater schools, which
Okay.
are publicly funded and they have big names and it's very competitive. And I did like 10 auditions in a year and a half, and I didn't get in.
Oh, wow.
So, and it's very competitive. You have often like a whole week of auditions. You have round one, round two, round three. And in one school, I almost got in. I was on the wait list, and it was heartbreaking because it was like a 4-day process, and we were broken down. Only 15 people left, but
Oh,
only 6 people get in. So that was a whole year and a half of that kind of thing. Very, wouldn't say traumatizing, but very intense, um, emotionally very overwhelming.
yeah, it was draining, I guess.
Yeah, very draining, and yeah, it would be hard to keep believing in yourself. But so I didn't get in, and everybody was like, "What? How come you didn't get in? You're usually, always one of the best in whatever environment you're in." Um, and then AMDA, the
Hmm.
school we both went to, New York, gave out a scholarship at a school I trained in Switzerland, and they
Okay.
came for a workshop, and I was like, oh, I'll just audition, whatever. And
Uh-huh.
then they gave me this pretty high scholarship, and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to New York. Who needs to stay in Europe? Fuck it. And before, I actually had wanted to go to New York because I have an uncle in New York, and I visited AMDA when I was 17. But
Mhm.
then I had a boyfriend in Switzerland, so I left the idea of going to America and thought, oh, I'll study in Europe. But by that time, we already broke up, and so New York was like much better option.
Okay.
So it was kind of meant to be, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the fact that there were auditions at your school, when you were looking to study musical theater, I think it was perfect match.
Yeah, it was meant to be. It was a musical theater program that I did in Switzerland. It wasn't normal school, but yeah, it's how they say one door closes and another one opens.
Yeah.
Many doors because I didn't get into any of these schools. But then the right one opened.
Are you still doing musical theater or just singing?
So the funny thing is I never did musical theater. Basically, my life looks like that. I have my singing career,
Uh-huh.
where I perform solo or with different bands. And then I act, but I never do musicals. My shows, my band performances are very theatrical, and sometimes I dance or there's some element of comedy, a lot
Uh-huh.
of comedy, but I don't like musicals for the most part. And I never did. I just love music, dance, and theater, but
Yeah.
I don't love the format of musicals. I often think the music is not musical.
Uh-huh.
I like music that has ethnic background,
Uh-huh.
where you can hear it's from a place. That's why I love Latin music and flamenco and tango and Middle Eastern. It's rooted in a place and a culture. So to me, that American musical theater sounds all the same, and it doesn't reach my soul. It just doesn't. It never did. And the stories I often don't care about. And this idea, now we're breaking out into dance. I don't know. So I've seen some shows where there was theater and music and it was combined in a very beautiful artistic way. I just don't like the format of musical that much.
Yeah. Is there any like
Um,
musical that you would say this is the one that they do it a great job?
in 2015, I saw The Color Purple in New York,
Okay.
and that was beautiful. The story is so deep. I don't know if you saw the movie The Color Purple. They actually just did a remake. It's such a deep, tragic story. Um, and you would think that doing a musical out of this is going to ruin it because often, things that worked really well on camera or in a movie because of the drama somehow don't work in musical theater because they're watering it down, making it into jazz hands.
Yeah.
But with Color Purple, I felt the music is so strong, the acting was great, and there's a story. So if there's a story that really is moving, and the music can match that,
Yeah.
then I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think musicals like Moulin Rouge, they're just a big spectacle. But to me, it's so non-artistic to spend for $50 gazillion on fancy costumes and nice high kick legs. There's nothing artistic about it to me.
Yeah.
For me, art is in the simplicity and interesting characters and music that is touching, not in the how many dollar bills can we add to this production.
Yeah. No,
I
you're
think that is what my rejection is also
right. Yeah.
towards that genre.
I haven't seen The Color Purple. Of course I saw the movie,
Yeah.
but for me it was just like, how are you gonna create such a like tragic story into like a musical? But now that you say this, now I'm intrigued because you need to have a really good excuse to bring music to such tragic. So if it's like perfect, now I'm gonna go and see it.
But yeah, so I love movement, and
Yeah.
voice and theater together, just not always the way musical tries to attempt it.
Okay, interesting. So you graduated, and I
Hmm.
remember I went to see you in a play, and you sang in Yiddish, right?
Hmm.
You sing in Yiddish. You already knew Yiddish. It was like your thing to go into that direction,
Yeah,
or
it
was
kind
it?
of sort of happened to me.
Uh-huh.
No, when I graduated, I did what everybody does, went to every audition for anything, didn't even care if I wanted to be in that thing or not. I just showed up, and
Okay.
I went to so many like musical theater calls, Peter Pan and Cats. I did all that for like 2 years, stood in line, chorus line, dirty dancing, and I had fun and I learned so much, and it was tough, picking up choreography in no time and being dropped in the first round and all that. But what happened is that my dad came to visit me and he saw that there's a Yiddish production of a play called Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller, very famous play.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, interesting, in Yiddish? Didn't know that exists. And so I saw it and I was blown away by the acting, by the way this play, particularly in Yiddish, had a whole nother dimension. It added a layer to the story that wasn't there before. And so then I learned there's Yiddish theater in New York. And then I started just hanging around with these people, and it's a small niche.
Yeah.
And because I speak German, Yiddish is very close, and I just have a good feeling for the language. And this is how I got into the Yiddish theater. And then I got quite a big role in an off-Broadway play in Yiddish. And so it was through the theater then was more exposed to Yiddish culture, klezmer music, Jewish theater. And from there, actually the music came later. But really it all came together, I would say, where I realized that I'm doing my own thing was in 2018, 2019, when I was at the new school and I took a class on solo performance.
Oh,
And
that's
I
right.
started crafting a one woman show there. And
Yeah.
then I was asked by the Yiddish theater to put one on, and by another woman in Boston who hired me for a private event and said, I'll give you a lot of money for you to perform for 45 minutes. Do whatever. And then I had this pressure to create a unique show. And so I started making a one woman show on how I'm finding myself, you
Yeah.
know? And that was consisted of Jewish elements, of Latin music, because I was very involved in with the Latin organizations in New
Uh,
York, as
uh-huh.
that's how we met. I mean, kind of got to know each other.
Yeah.
And so there was a bit of everything. So yeah, that was when I started creating more of my own content with that one woman show, because I made songs that I've been writing over a few years, and then I put them in the show, and suddenly it became like a packaged kind of thing.
So you presented it? When did you present it this
Yeah,
one?
so I did like two runs in New York, one in May, and then I had a week-long run in a small theater on Times Square called the theater closed down. Whatever. It was on Times Square on the ninth floor somewhere, like a 70-seat theater.
This one was like after 2018, right?
This was in 2018 and 19. Actually, this was 2019. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, it was called In Love with the Dream. And so it was a 50-minute show that I then developed further into a 75-minute show, and I performed that one in Boston and in Switzerland.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was at the end of 2019. And it was very successful. And I wanted to tour it in 2020.
Okay.
And then the world shut down. And since the show was very autobiographical, I felt like that once COVID was kind of over 2022, I felt like I grew out of the show. I grew up.
Yeah.
The show was sort of a collection of my life from 20 to 25, going to all these auditions and figuring out who I am and what my role is as an artist. And so, yeah, the show had all these elements of, monologues about standing in line at auditions, at being rejected. And it was like a mashup of many things. Original songs, covers, like I did a Shakira cover in Yiddish. It was all like tied in to make it into a show. And so, yes, that I felt like in 2022, I was not that Lea anymore. So I
And
could never bring the show back, which was a bit sad.
yeah. So the show it was in English and or Yiddish.
It was in English, but I had a lot of elements. There was some parts in Spanish because I'm talking to Latino guys in Cuba and Puerto Rico. So some of the dialogue was in Spanish. Some of the songs had Spanish and Yiddish
Uh-huh.
and English. And then some of the dialogue was in German because throughout the show, I always call my mom,
Okay.
which is in real life, that's how it also used to be. I called her a lot. And so that was in German. But depending on where I performed this show, like in America, when I performed it, I did less German, more English. And in Switzerland, I added more, I just changed a few things. So
Yeah.
it was cool because I could change it to my audience. There was a little French in it too. Um,
That's
yeah.
crazy. Lea, how many languages do you speak? It's
So actually, it's quite interesting because I'm learning I would say probably my eighth language. I'm fluent in French, English, German, probably in Yiddish, and then I'm quite intermediate in Spanish, Italian, Hebrew. Hebrew, I'm so, but now I'm learning Arabic. I started 3 weeks ago,
Nice.
and that's probably the hardest thing I've ever done.
Why is it because you everything is backwards or
It's just the sounds are so different. Um, there's similarities to Hebrew, but it's harder. There's certain sounds like ha and ah that we're just not used to.
yeah.
Um, and the letters are so difficult. They're like signs, and the letters change depending on if there's a letter after or before, so they look always different. So it's very tough.
How does your creative process start? You know, how do you start a song? I mean,
Mm.
you kind of gave me a little bit, with the lyrics, but do you also compose music or
Mhm.
yeah?
Yeah, all the
That.
songs that you hear, I wrote the melodies. Um, I don't arrange them.
Uh-huh.
So, meaning I have, like, for my album, I had a producer and we decided, okay, this song should have piano and violin and da da da. And then together we figure out what these instruments are doing. But I come up with the melody and the lyrics and sometimes even the chords. But since my piano skill is, just good enough to compose, I don't come up with the craziest arrangements. So for that, I need somebody else. Um, but yeah, it's different. Sometimes I've sat down and tried to write a song that doesn't work. And
Okay.
that's annoying because I can't just write songs whenever I choose to. They really often they come from a longing or anger. So anger is a great like fuel for me to write, like frustration or anger at myself. Um, and then once I start writing, I can laugh about it, and then I think songs happen because it gets me. I'm like sort of excited. Oh, I have anger. Maybe I can write a song out of my anger. That's a good thing. And then it's when I start laughing about myself, and that's often when sort of these a bit more comedic songs, rarely out of sadness, but usually when something happens. Like I wrote a song when my husband's grandfather died, and it made me very reflective. And
Mhm.
then I wrote a song. Or I was in New York in long distance relationship with my husband, who was then my boyfriend, and it was a hot summer night, and then I wrote a song. So it's often like an emotional drive. It's not in my brain. It's not like I want to write a song about this. It's a feeling and I don't know what to do, and then I follow an impulse.
Yeah. And then the music come along little by little, or you
Kind
play.
of at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never successfully written a song where I had the words and then the melody followed. It's usually at the same time. And then often I rewrite. Once I sort of have like, a verse, a chorus, then sometimes I let that go. And a few months later, I finish the song.
Is In Love with a Dream your first album? Because I just realized that was the name of your solo show.
Yeah. So, I had this solo show that I couldn't bring back because COVID happened. And I felt like now I'm an adult, not an adult, but now I'm 2 years older and it's not the story I want to tell anymore. And I had all these songs that I wrote over the years and which were sort of collected in my one woman show. And then I always knew I once said when I'm 26 I want to release my first album. And I was 26 during COVID and I didn't have an album. And then soon after I was like, okay, but I need to make an album, and I had all these songs. So I started gathering them, and when I was looking for the title, I actually felt like this is In Love with a Dream. It's kind of a chapter of my life, and
Mhm.
those songs all belong to that chapter. So it's the audio version of my one woman show.
I love the ones that when you sing in, is it
Hebrew or Yiddish?
Yiddish, I think? But I was just like, I don't understand anything. What is this? But I
Uh,
love the melody.
I think a theme in general in my life, well, dreams, the idea of a dream, that's definitely the theme of that album. A lot of the songs are about, the song How Long? Tell me how long do you think I'll keep strong? It's about, yeah, the idea like what is a dream? Do we recognize when we are reaching our dreams because they're changing. We change, you know? And so I would say dreams and courage are strong themes in my music. And I would say love and intimacy. Maybe it's not, I don't use that word, but yeah, I would say intimacy, what that means is a theme in general that I explore in my art. There's not really otherwise a theme. It's just things that happen to me, like what I'm observing in the world. Like the fuck the algorithm is just, it was a message. We need to change something about society. Damn. So they're very personal. They come from what I'm struggling with, what
Yeah.
I'm observing, what bothers me, you know?
How did the idea of using the Strymel come along?
So the shtreimel, you know, the fur hat that usually only Orthodox Jewish men wear. Um, in short, I used to have a Russian fur hat from my grandmother that she
Okay.
gave to me that I wore in New York when it was cold. You know, it was just a fur hat that looked similar to a shtreimel, but not as bombastic.
Uh-huh.
And I started putting it on when I was rapping, when I was fundraising for Revolucion Latina. You know, we were doing these fundraisers, you were part
Yeah.
of it. And I started rapping only because we had to fundraise. And I just sort of thought, maybe that's a way I can fundraise better. And because I had nothing fancy to wear in the sweaty dance studio at AMDA, at our school, I had the hat and I put it on. And then simultaneously, I got into Yiddish theater and Yiddish music, and I met a lot of Orthodox Jews that either used to be ultra Orthodox or kind of are, but sort of have a double life. And so they would show me their shtreimel, and I loved it. I put it on my hat, and I became obsessed with it. And then I was at the new school doing my final piece for a class that was about hip hop culture,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew I wanted to mix somehow Jewish and hip hop. That's what I wanted, and I had no idea how. And then I came across this piece, Eshet, which is this praise of the perfect Jewish woman, which
Mm-hmm.
is a traditional piece of music that some families sing on Friday night to honor the Jewish women.
Mm-hmm.
And I came across those lyrics, and then I knew, okay, this is the piece that's going to allow me to bring hip hop and Judaism together. And then at the performance in school, I wore my Russian fur hat when I did the piece because I didn't have a shtreimel. But I knew the piece is about, you know, I don't know, it's about female liberation and anti-objectification, and female empowerment. And so for me, it made sense to put an element that is very male onto my hat. And I actually thought it looks better on women than it looks on men. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's how it came about. It was like having that fur hat that I used for rapping and then making a piece where I felt like actually need like a visual element that makes the statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Do you have any controversy? Is that
Doing
the way
that
you say controversy? Controversy.
controversy.
Controversy. Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can say whatever you said was fine too. In my opinion. Yes, definitely. You know, if when Orthodox Jews, there's a range of Orthodox people. Obviously, the very Orthodox, like the ones who wear the shtreimel, most of them will never see my video because they don't go on social media.
Mhm.
They're not supposed to. But I know that the video has been shared on WhatsApp groups in those communities.
Okay.
Um, so those people definitely have issues. And when I was filming in Israel, shooting that piece, you know, people, when I was in the market, when you watch that video, you see people like looking at me with an evil eye. And
Mhm.
we did get chased away, and we did have bad comments. So yes, but I would say most of my audience is more liberal. For them, I would say most people have no issue with it. Some people are a bit in between. They don't love it, but you know, there's I think is some that are not sure what to think of it. But for example, my grandfather, he passed away in 2020, but he still saw that video. It came out early in 2020,
Mhm.
and he grew up actually not ultra orthodox, but orthodox, meaning, you know, he went to Jewish school and he was a Holocaust survivor. He, to my surprise, said, I actually upgrade the Orthodox Jewish people by making it look so nice. So that was surprising from somebody who's rather conservative, like my
Yeah.
grandfather. So people surprised me.
It's crazy. Is like there is this seed on people you don't even like imagine, that sometimes when you come up with, statements so strong like yours, it starts to flourish.
Hmm.
So far, what's your favorite song? What is the favorite song you've written so far or that you like the most?
Honestly, I don't have a favorite song.
Hmm.
Every song is a part of my history,
Yeah.
my experience. And so I have some that I don't perform much because they're harder to pull off with an acoustic band. Some need a DJ or tracks, and I don't often perform like that. Or some I would need backup singers to do it well live, and therefore I rarely perform it. But no, to be honest, here and there, I don't listen to them much. Here and there, I listen to them and I'm like, huh, I like this song. Like, they surprise me. So, no, I don't have a favorite. They all have a reason why they exist.
Now, my question is the opposite. Is there a song that you've really struggled to create and why?
Yes, actually, there's two. It's very interesting. Some songs we produced with my producer, I showed him the lyrics, I showed him the melody, and he went to work, put in some track beats. We did record a violinist who did the violinist lines or whatever, and it was done in 3 hours. Obviously, then you mix and master, but the concept and the structure, we could do zack like this.
Yeah.
And other songs took a whole year, meaning we did them. I didn't feel vocally connected or able to sing it. I gave it a pause. I didn't know what sound I wanted. I just heard, no, I don't like this. And we tried different things and it wasn't it. It wasn't it. So that's interesting that some that I thought would be more complicated took no time and others really needed time, like time, not, I couldn't really rush them, which is annoying because I wanted to do them.
Yeah.
So the song Someone for the Night, which is this 6/8 rock ballad, I wrote it in a way that it doesn't sit easy in my voice.
Okay.
And I actually recorded it in 2019 and submitted it to Eurovision because I thought, why not? I'll submit to Eurovision because that's always a good platform to become, more known.
Yeah.
And so I created the song and thought, really, within a week, I went to the studio for a demo version. And then I let it sit. And then a few months later, or like a year later, I was like, okay, now we're producing it. And vocally, I couldn't do it. It was just sitting in a spot where I couldn't get the sound that I wanted to.
Yeah.
And so half of the song was recorded at one moment, and then half of the song was recorded half a year later.
Okay.
And so that one was tough, vocally. And I could have changed the key, but I felt like this is the right key. It's just that maybe someone else should sing the song.
Yeah. Is it so when you created it, were you creating while you were singing it or just
Yeah,
simply okay?
I was, but I wasn't, belting it out.
Mm.
Usually I don't, yeah, I don't know, because I chose the key it's in, and it didn't matter what key it was in. It was just, it's a kind of more belty kind of song, which was 3 years ago very hard for me. I
Mhm.
had, as I said, my voice has been going through a lot of changes, and I have to say I had a lot of bad teachers.
Mhm.
But 2 years ago, I found an amazing teacher in Germany, actually at the school that I didn't get into but was on the wait list. So
Okay.
it's kind of full circle. Now I'm training with that teacher. She's now retired.
Mhm.
And she's changed my abilities. Like I can do much more now. But when I was recording, I was so stressed that my voice would break down.
Yeah.
I was in my closet in New York City trying to sing the song, and I would break out into tears because I couldn't produce it. And it was the stress that added even more tension to the muscles.
Is this song out or is it coming out
Yeah,
soon?
it's called Someone for the Night. Yeah, it's strange. With some songs, they sit really well in my voice, and others, I wrote something that I love that is just harder to sing.
Yeah.
Um, and there was another song, How Long? It's the last song on the album
Mhm.
that For a long time, I didn't know what sound I wanted. I was like, it should be like a Christian rock song, like a gospel Christian pop rock song. And but then I wasn't sure what that really means. And so it took a long time to hear what it I knew what it shouldn't be, but I didn't know what it should be. Yeah, some things just take more time to reveal themselves in
Exactly.
a way.
Yeah. And also to sit, like you say, to sit in your body and, to make it.
Hmm.
I already know the answer, but I'm already going to ask it. What language do you like singing the most?
What is the answer? What do you think?
I would say it depends on what you're feeling in the moment.
Yeah, I definitely the answer. I don't have a favorite language.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's like a different part of me singing. Yiddish, it feels old and sacred and in a very deep place, but it's not the right language for every song. And my voice has a certain sound in that language, and I love it, but not for everything. Certain things that are more snappy just need to be in English. So it depends on what the song asks for. And I have tried to write a song in Yiddish and couldn't do it because whatever I tried to do didn't work in Yiddish. It doesn't always work. I love singing in German, and I haven't done that much. Um, so one of my goals is to make more German crossover music, like German in another language, because your voice sounds different in every language. The vowel shapes are different.
Mm.
English is very bright, all the as, and you know, and then German is darker, but has a I sound different.
Yeah.
And for the first time I actually sang in Arabic, and that is a whole nother beast. Like because of all these ha and ain, I feel like I'm relearning how to sing in that language.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting to me. It feels like I'm just sort of trying to make the sounds. I'm not even focused on how I'm sounding. So I don't have a favorite. I love singing in Spanish, but I don't do it that much just because it doesn't maybe come as natural to me because I
Mhm.
didn't grow up with Spanish. I just love it, you know. So whatever the song asks of me, I will give it to it.
You're so versatile. I love it. Also I didn't bring it up, but I love when you rap.
Mm, that's so funny. A lot of people say that. A mother of a high school friend came to my show in Switzerland, and she told my friend who couldn't come, Lea's a great singer, but when she raps, I love that. And she's like 60 years old. And anyway, that's surprising to me. And it's cool to hear because, I don't listen to rap. And I don't care if I don't care if real rappers thinks I'm shit. I use it to bring a message across. And I think it works for that. And so that's why I don't care what rappers think about me as a rapper. I see myself as a singer who raps
Yeah.
from time to time. Um, but yeah, that's good to hear because in my one woman show, I had a lot of rap, and people asked for me to sing more. They were like, "We want to hear your voice,"
Yeah.
and now I'm doing both.
Do you have a question that you'd like to be asked?
I guess it's not a question; it's a statement. You know, I don't share my process that much. And that's the danger of social media. We just share products,
Mhm.
and it makes us very untouchable and harder to relate to in a way. And sharing process actually does really well on social media because people actually are hungry to see process because it makes it easier for us to relate
Yeah.
and see how something develops. And I don't just fart perfect shit out. You know what I mean? I don't just
Yeah.
sit and wake up and suddenly I have a video. And I just want to maybe say that even though I don't show process, there's lots of process, that is not seen. And I just think process is so important in this world where everything's product oriented and one click and then we're already to the next. Um, I guess I just share process more with the people in my environment than on social media. And it might seem like I don't share process, but I talk a lot about my work
Yeah.
with people. So that's just important to share.
I mean, where's the core is. If there's no process, there's no product. You know what I mean?
Yes, totally. We don't know how much people struggle writing a song or how much time they actually spend. We just share the final thing. But
Yeah.
also part of me is like it takes time. I don't want to share. I'm working on some things, so I don't care much sharing it because I'm busy working on stuff. And yeah, sometimes it's also an insecurity thing.
Is there like a moment where you doubt yourself about your creativity? Um,
Yeah, for sure.
you don't look like it. I'm gonna tell you, like from my perspective, like I always see you just like she just goes ahead and do it. She doesn't give a fuck.
That's what
She does
people
it.
say, and it's nice to hear, but and it actually it bears the question to me, am I relatable to people the way they perceive me? Because yeah, the way people perceive me online, I guess, or even in person, it's like go getter. I'm just doing and don't care. I would say for the most part it's true. I believe in action. I really believe in action, and I think I've gotten actually not living in New York made me more active. In New York, you have an excuse, you're always distracted. You're auditioning for other people's projects. You're
Hmm.
running to a dance class because you want to be seen. But you actually never have time to figure out, or to me, it was like that. What do I need to do? What is the message or the project I want to carry forth? Because there's so many other things happening that are very distracting.
Yeah.
And so living in Minnesota, especially during pandemic, which was so freaking hard, I had more time with myself and I started to um, pull the energy out of myself, take actions for the projects I want to create and find a way to make them happen. And it takes a little courage, and you need to be the one that believes in you. Nobody else is gonna do it for you.
Yeah.
Um, but I see how many people don't follow their intuition or their dreams or their projects. So I'm like, what do I have to lose? 99% of people sit on their stories that they write, never release their songs, and wonder why they're unhappy. And so I kind of got really good at just doing it. Um, because the other option is worse, not doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
you know and
For
but
sure.
there are times I doubt myself, like a lot. Like this song, for example, fuck the algorithm. It's called F the algorithm because I didn't want to have the fuck word, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be great. It's very catchy. It's a bit like run 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 run. It's very catchy and it has a very strong message. My dream for it would be, I don't care if it's viral, to make a huge impact, meaning that it would be shown in schools, and people would have discussions on how to change the relationship for children and social media. That maybe somebody like the creators of Social Dilemma, the people who made that movie that was on Netflix about how algorithms are made to keep us addicted to the app, that these people would spread this video because it has the same message. um, and I'm sitting at home and I'm almost crying because I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to promote. I'm not a promoter. I'm not a marketing person. I'm not a I'm the creator. But the
Yeah.
job of selling a product is a very different job than creating a product. And I feel so overwhelmed that I have to do the other thing too, you
Yeah.
know? And so there's a lot of doubt. It's what I'm working on right now. And then, of course, comparing myself with other people. That's why I hate social media. It's pointless. I've gotten better at it, not doing it because it's useless, but I have that in me a bit. But yeah, it's interesting. I think I do come across on social media as very like, I don't care and tough. There's vulnerable moments. It's just, yeah, I don't share them. I don't find value in sharing them with random people online. I share them with the people in my environment. But yeah, I would say in general, life's too short, and I see how many people are not happy because they don't believe in themselves or don't take action, and
Okay.
it's just sad. And I've been stuck. There's times when I have a song or a thing that I want to do and I feel stuck, and the only way to unstuck is just taking a first step. And once you took a step, the second and third and fourth are so much easier. It's the
Mhm.
first step that's hard. The first phone call to a collaborator, or the first time you show a song to somebody. Yeah.
That's what I wanted to ask you. How do you collaborate with other artists, like in the creation process?
Mm,
How is that? How is a day in Lea collaborating with another artist?
you know, that's something I want to do more. Like, um, I've done more collaborations this year. For example, I met a band from Prague
Hmm.
last year in Switzerland on the street because they were singing, and we became like a thing. Now we have gigs together every year, and we're recording an album in March. And it's the first time I'm sort of just, it was like meant to be. You know, they're my other half. They needed me and I needed them.
Uh-huh.
It's like magic. But in general, I'm shy when it comes to collaboration. And one way actually to expand your audience and to get more, you know, yeah, I guess more visibility is collaboration. So to be honest, that's something I'm not that good at yet. I'm very good at having my project and hiring people to execute my project, but I haven't done a lot of actual collaboration. Like, let's sit together and make this together. And
Okay.
maybe I feel like people are a little intimidated by me, and I'm also intimidated by other people. It's a fear thing. It's
Yeah.
just fear. And actually, I'm working on my first short film where collaboration is going to be the only way to succeed. I can't make a film on my own, or even I can't write the music and direct, and it's just not
It's
possible.
a lot.
This will be interesting for me to really trust people. And actually, for my last music video shoot 2 weeks ago, like F the algorithm, it's the first time I hired a producer director and said, "You can do whatever you want. I'll give you the money and you can hire the crew. Here you go." And we developed the vision. We had like 10 meetings, really creating the vision for the song. And I had a say in the costumes, but it was the first time I gave away a huge chunk of responsibility.
How did that feel?
It's scary because you really need somebody who really understands what you're trying to do. And that is why collaboration doesn't come up that easily. You need the right people for the right project. So it was hard. It was nice not having to do all the emailing because I had a PA, an ace. We had like a crew of 15 people. And it was hard not to step on the director's toes because I'm the choreographer and I'm in the video. So
Okay.
not, but I realized that I'm really a director. I realized that I cannot not see the shot. I need to see the shot and tell the camera person what to do differently. So it
Yes.
was actually a huge learning lesson for me that no, I'm gonna be the director actor for many years of my life. It's just natural to me. So it was great. It was a great learning, and there were many pluses of having to let go, and it was also hard in other moments. It's probably coming out, I hope, in the next 2 months. I need
Uh-huh.
to figure out a plan to release it. And again, the whole point is not to release it only via social media because it's anti-social media song. So
Yeah.
it's really about finding real spaces like schools, university, where they discuss, you know, mental health and behavior around
For
social
sure.
media so that it really has an impact in real spaces. Impact in virality doesn't mean impact. People think a video that has 1 billion views has an impact. It doesn't mean that, you
Yeah.
know, that you can't measure impact. Like views, you can't, just because something has views, it means a lot of people have seen it, but it doesn't mean it's actually creating conversation or change. Like, and especially these 20-second clips that have been, what is a 20-second video going to change the world? Like, what changes our dialogue, conversation, feel like being one-on-one with people? So
Yeah.
that's why I'm like trying to redefine what would mean success to me with this video specifically.
My next question is, how is Leia changing the world with her art? I feel like that's part of the answer, but if you have something else.
How am I changing the world with my art? Okay, I think for those who see me and experience me live, I think they receive more joy and more energy.
Hmm.
And I think they receive courage to follow their dreams. That's really in most of my shows, my message is don't wait till the last song to get up and have joy. You should get up the first song you have to write to get up. Don't wait for my permission. So I think that's really what I'm doing with my performances. Give permission to have joy and be big in everything you do. And then in a more general, like my brand or what I try to do, I think it's definitely be a positive, open-minded Jewish voice in the world, especially with what's going on right now in the world. Being Jewish makes all the difference for me. Like in October, I was at a world music festival in Spain right after the war broke out in Israel and Gaza. And this other Jewish woman said, "You're so brave for walking around saying you're Jewish." And I was like, I don't see how it's brave. Like, maybe, but it's necessary. Like, we need to give people an image of what it means to be Jewish other than the media.
Yeah.
I'm not Israel. I'm not the president of Israel. Like, and so actually being a positive voice and then saying I'm Jewish is very important to me. So I think that is my goal, to be a strong female Jewish voice, open for change.
Yeah.
There's probably other things, but
I think every
yeah.
little thing that Leah does with her art reflects on your lyrics and your music. On even right now, what you're saying, it's a huge impact.
Mm.
Um, is there anything outside of the art that um, that nurtures you? Like any hobbies that no one could imagine about Leah
It's
that
so
nurtures
tricky because I made my hobby my career in a way. I mean, no, in the summer I love playing tennis. Actually this year I didn't have that much time to play,
you?
but I love tennis. I love running, but I do it to stay fit. I wouldn't say I love it. It's just it makes me feel good. Well, that's the trick. I make every hobby into my career. Like I'm learning tango right now. I mean, I knew tango before, but now I'm learning intensely.
Okay,
It once was a hobby, but now it's something I need to become amazing at.
okay.
So that's a bit the maybe the downside. I need to be good at things, otherwise I can't enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. So I can understand you.
But I see my husband is the opposite. He's so okay being bad at stuff, and so he tries so many things and gets better.
Mhm.
So he actually inspired me. Like, actually, I'm sitting at his table, and these are like Brazilian shakers. And so
Okay.
he walks around the apartment doing like showing me how to hold them, and it's really hard in the beginning, and how
Uh-huh.
to like flop, whatever. I can't do it right now. And
Okay.
so he inspires me to try things that I suck at just for the fun of it and enjoying
Yeah.
getting better in a sort of random fun way. Oh wait, there was one thing. Oh, I love so I model for art classes. People draw me. And I've enjoyed a lot drawing. So I would say
Okay.
that's a hobby
Yeah.
that I wish I had more time, but I've gotten more into it lately.
You
Um
don't really want to become great at. That's important.
no, I think I prefer being the model for now.
I love that. What has been the most important lesson that you have learned in your career so far?
It's very simple. Just keep going. Just keep going. We are in our lives, so we just need to do it. We are in it. We can't judge it. We're the vessel. We can't stop and look at it and judge what's not working. I think I think most people, why they don't succeed in whatever success, it's its own world, but why don't they succeed for themselves is because they stop too early. They don't keep going. And nobody said if you release 10 songs, the 11th is going to be a success. For one person it could be the first song and then 50 unsuccessful songs, and there's many artists who had a one success wonder. And then some write 50 and then they become known on television for acting. So there is no logic, I think, to life, and especially as artists. I believe everything is kind of meant to go in a certain way. We have a certain path that we are in, but I think not giving up, just take action. You do have to do shit. You can't sit around and complain. But if you
Yeah.
do things, you do accumulate. And I think that one thing that I'm just learning, there is no quick success. It's going to crumble later.
Yeah.
And we might think that looking at some other people's lives from the outside, I think you're just building. You're building yourself.
Have you had any tough moment in your career? And what have you done to overcome it?
I don't think I had like a major crisis or stuckness, or like desperation where I wasn't doing anything for months. There's tiny moments in my life where I'm like doubting myself for like, why am I not making more money? And then I have to remind myself that money is not the only way to measure value, and
Mm-hmm.
that we live in a world where artists we're like we're going against the stream. The world is not created for artists to succeed per se. um and so then I let that go. So there's constantly moments where I'm fighting thoughts that make me feel like I'm a loser.
Mhm.
definitely. But somehow my trust in what I'm doing and my, I don't know, my desire for action just keeps me going. There's some days where I'm like, whatever, don't feel excited about who I am.
But you just do it. You just
Yeah,
do it.
it's just like I think people, I think COVID is a huge issue, and our addiction, our relationship to our phones. People are isolated, people are lonely, and they're not with people enough anymore, like a lot of people they work from home and then they watch stuff online and then they feel bad about themselves. Or I've noticed that, during COVID, that was a thing. Or even sometimes right now, I don't have a normal job, and there's months that I'm traveling and performing, and then I'm constantly around people and I'm like on a high. And
Hmm.
then I come back to Minneapolis from a tour, and I do have some things lined up, but it's calm. And then I sort of crash a bit, and I'm like, what? Who am I? Like suddenly I have time to be with myself, and then I freak out that why don't I have a concert? Why am I not so busy? And those moments are those mini moments of stuckness or doubts. They can last like a day, but usually they're like an hour or a thought, and then I can move past it.
Do you kind of give yourself a break of like, you know what, I'm gonna go and walk or
Yeah,
something?
definitely. Like I do sometimes have strong anger feelings,
Mhm.
especially coming off of social media. Or currently, I have to say, the war in Israel brings a lot of frustration that is very takes over. And so then I have to. It's very hard to let that feeling go. So yeah, like movement is the best cure for me. Like runs, or right now it's deadly cold, so hot yoga and stuff like that.
Okay.
Um, so yes, I have tools to get out of moments of stuckness.
Yeah.
Not always. Sometimes I have to be stuck and cry about it.
Yeah. That's good, because
It's good.
sometimes I feel bad because I'm crying because I feel stuck. But
Right.
sometimes it's like good.
Yeah, it's just interesting is you ask about being stuck in my career. I was more stuck in my private life. And actually it actually it goes together because our lives, our life is our life. So
Mhm.
everything is related. But um yeah, 20 I mean, COVID was very hard because I was living in a new city with no family, no friends, no job, and a city that doesn't have much to offer. So I was completely alone with nothing except for my boyfriend. And so he had a lot of pressure on him because I was quite unhappy. So I was like a miserable teenager in 2020, and I actually worked with a coach to, I had emotions arise that I didn't know what to do with. So I had to do a lot of work on myself.
Mhm.
And then, in 2021, my boyfriend proposed to me and I wasn't ready to say yes. And that put my relationship in a stuckness for, I can't say stuck because even a relationship evolves, but I felt like stuck with the question, do I want to marry this guy or not,
Mhm.
for 2 years. And that brought up a lot of work I had to do looking at myself and why is there this hesitation, and is it making me feel so under pressure and all this stuff. So I would say in 20 last September, not 2023, 2022,
Mhm.
I was stuck. I didn't know with my career. I was waiting for my artist visa. You know how that is. I was waiting, so I couldn't work. I didn't have anything lined up because I couldn't take anything. And I didn't know if I want to get married to my husband, who was already proposed to me twice.
Oh my God.
And so that was so much pressure. Um, and so what I did, because I think it's worth sharing, that sometimes, your art can thrive, but we're a whole being. So I was stuck in another spot. I really was stuck and had a lot of anger because it's it's a tough situation being asked to get married and not being able to say yes and not knowing why. So what I did, I don't know if you heard of Vipassana, but it's this 10-day silent meditation, which has always intrigued me. I had a friend who did it. It's 10 days of 10 hours meditating, no phone, no writing, little
10
food.
hours straight?
No, with breaks,
Okay.
but all you do is meditate all day
Okay.
and for 10 days. And I had a friend who did it twice and told me great things about it. And then suddenly in 2022 in the summer, when I felt stuck and angry and a little self-hating, because I'm like, why can't I marry this guy? And then I don't have a visa right now, blah, blah, blah. I felt like what I need is this 10 days of complete silence. And then I signed up and I did that thing, and that was life changing. So
What's the name of this again?
it's called Vipassana
Okay.
meditation. It's a very hardcore meditation. There's other ways to get into meditation, but because it's so hard, um, it's really hard. You don't talk and you meditate for 10 hours. For somebody like me who's super active and my life is like boom, 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 I'm everywhere doing the same thing for 10 hours a day is brutal. But what it taught me is trust, trusting yourself, because basically you have thoughts that arise and you don't have anybody to, you don't express them. You just watch what happens to them. You do that for 10 days. And so one thing that it taught me, after coming out of that retreat, I realized how much I love my husband. Well, back then he was still my boyfriend. I wasn't ready to marry him yet. It's not that it gave me the answers, but I had a deep feeling of he is the guy, just not yet. And in general, I had a physical feeling of what trusting yourself means. It was like not here, it was a physical manifestation of the thought. And I think that's very unique about meditation. You physicalize, it's physical. And so it's a bit hard to explain, but so when I left this meditation thing, I had a deep feeling of self, of groundedness. And I think that helps me even now in my art. So I think that was a huge thing. And then I tried to keep my meditation up, which obviously I didn't. But even just remembering that once I sat in this place and I did something very, very hard that gave me a deep satisfaction, it helps in the moment, you know?
Yeah. I want to do it now.
Yeah, and one has to be ready. One needs to need that. And I knew about it for 4 or 5 years, and it was always like, oh my God, never, I can't. And then it was like, no, now is the time. I'm freaking out. I'm afraid, but I felt it's calling me.
I mean, to summarize, I feel like when you're stuck, that those feelings, kind of feed your art. So that way you feel like your art is moving, but it's coming
Mm-hmm.
from something so raw, like
Mm-hmm.
what you were going through, you know?
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite book or a singer that you look up to?
People cross my orbit, other artists that I think are doing interesting things and are great.
Hmm.
But I think there's something about, actually, I just watched a documentary about Joan Baez. She was a famous folk singer. She's now in her 80s.
Okay.
She was huge in the 60s, 70s.
Uh-huh.
And it's a beautiful portrait about what it means to be famous and raising to success very quickly and what it means to be an artist. And that is inspiring. So, I don't have one. People cross me all the time. There's this friend, Anita. She's a 70-year-old woman, a widow in Minneapolis, and she's a drawing artist. So she goes to courtrooms and draws. She goes to hospitals and draws sick patients.
Okay.
She's like a documentary drawer, and she's inspiring to me. She has no money. She goes wherever she has with a pad and she draws, and she looks at people, and she finds beauty in everything, even in disease. So she's somebody who has a lot of inspiring, elements about what she does and who she is. So most people are in my orbit. It's not like, oh my God,
Yeah.
Madonna.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, I actually said I want to be the Jewish Madonna,
Hmm.
but I could say I want to be the Jewish Lady Gaga. It doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
just the fact that they're like big and famous. But no, inspiring people are all around, or certain actions are inspiring, They're everywhere.
I do want to ask you, what is the best thing that art has brought in you?
I would say, what has it not brought in me? What has it not? Because I am my art. And I think it's coming through in my some of my songs that there's always a dualism. There's always the shy and the bold, the whore and the religious. I think that's a theme of mine, that I'm like a bit too extremes all the time. And I think my art allows me to live both, you know? So I'm not a whore in my real life. I'm rather shy and sexually not that open,
Yeah.
But in my art, I can be more open because there's a form to it. There's a shape, So I actually think art is me, everything.
If you could change one thing in your life, what would you change?
Sometimes I'm very intense. Sometimes a little softness. I think it would make me feel better too.
To be softer?
Softer, which I have that part. And actually, when I did the meditation, I was softer. That's
Hmm.
why I need to go back to that feeling. I'm very intense and a harsh critic. I'm critical of
Hmm.
humanity and myself and the world. And I just wish I can be critical, but always with the softness, you know?
Yeah.
And I have it in moments and then it escapes me because my intensity or my desire takes over, or my critic. So I think that would be nice. Yeah,
Mm.
to be a little more gentle.
Is there like a dream that you have that you haven't accomplished yet?
Oh, yeah. Like, I would love to be on tour with the Lea Kalisch tour, with like full out, a full band, backup singers and dancers, and just go crazy. Right now, I can't do shows like that. There's no people who hire me don't have the budget to do a 15-piece, you know, stage show. That would be amazing. Like on, big festival stages where I can like run out because I have this energy. I think I need to make use of that insane energy that I have and run around on stage and then run into the crowds and then get audience onto the stage. I do it in my way, but I wish I could do it in a bigger setting,
Yeah. Yeah.
like wild. That's one. And I would love to play in a really good, maybe multilingual, independent movie, a role that's really meaningful to me. I've played
Yeah.
meaningful roles on stage, very meaningful ones, but not on screen. And I would love to do that. And so I'm writing one for myself right now in my short film. But I would love to be, it's different writing it and then being cast in some other person's work.
Yeah.
So that definitely, those two things come to mind right now.
Well, it's happening.
Slowly, right? And then life is long. If you already were there? Then what are you going to do after?
Yeah.
But then again, but you want to have it. So I'm torn between.
Are you performing right now and where? So people can.
Yeah, well, I don't know when you're releasing this, but I'm doing a big show. Actually, I have a flyer that's staring at me on the table, but I'm doing a show. I'm the first act, and then the band, which is also my band, but it's with a
Uh-huh.
big ensemble, Jubilaya, in Minneapolis. And then
Okay.
I'm actually going to Argentina in February for almost 3 weeks for intensive tango and research for my
Nice.
movie because it's set in Argentina and it involves tango. So I have to decide if I will film the movie there.
Okay, okay.
So that's why I'm going. And then in March, I'll be performing in Europe, but mostly in Munich and then in the Czech Republic because that's where I'm recording my new album with this other band from Prague. And actually, I'm trying to get some gigs in May in LA. I'm still working on that in California. So who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part, my shows right now are in Europe and Minneapolis.
Okay, and last but not least, what are your socials? Even though you hate social media,
No,
but
I don't hate it. Oh, actually, I hate it. But I do have socials. Well, everything's at Lea Kalisch, Leakalisch. Lea Kalisch is my name. And I'm on Instagram. I am on TikTok with a very unique thing I'm doing there from
Mhm.
time to time. And my YouTube channel is a great way to follow me. And I have a website where I have a newsletter where I send very personalized updates every month or two. So there's tons of ways: Facebook, Instagram.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
Thank
I,
you for
yeah.
asking all these interesting questions.